IT may well change the way you live, yet again. Welcome to the world mobile commerce, where your handheld device, be it mobile phone, a personal digital assistant, PDA, or any other wireless application will soon be used for commercial transactions. Skeptical? Consider these facts. In Japan, mobile phones are used for location-based services, where mobile service providers. Rice took a stab at settling the argument with a meta-analysis, a study of studies on whether people can really perceive better than CD quality sound. He analyzed data from 18 studies, including more than 400 participants and nearly 13,000 listening tests. Overall, listeners picked out the better than CD quality track 52.3% of the time. There are three main interpretations of the English Revolution. The longest-lasting interpretation was that the revolution was the almost inevitable outcome of an age-old power struggle between Parliament and Crown. The second sees it as a class struggle and a lead-up to the French and other revolutions. Finally, third interpretation sees the other two as too fixed.
For the purposes of argument, culture is divided into material and non-material, and speakers' aim is to show how they both affect each other. Material developments in tools and technology can affect non-material culture, our customs and beliefs, and other way around. Genetics is used as an example as it has changed the way we think about life.
The second group that is particularly vulnerable are night shift workers. And the third group that is particularly vulnerable are people with sleep disorders, particularly sleep apnea. 1 out of 3 men and 1 out of 6 women have sleep apnea. And yet, 85% are undiagnosed and untreated. And it more than doubles the risk of cancers.
The speaker is a marine biologist who became interested in the strandlopers, an ancient people who lived on the coastline because of their connection to sea. Their way of life intrigued him. As a child, he had spent a lot of time by the sea, exploring and collecting things. So he began to study them and discovered some interesting information.
Scientists make observations, have assumptions, and do experiments. After these have been done, they get their results. Then there is a lot of data from scientists. The scientists around the world have a picture of the world. Sleep behavior is also known as sleep disorder. People with disorder often talk or walk in sleep. They are not aware of what they are talking or where they are going. There isn't any serious effect on body in general, but it may be connected to mental health. People with childhood traumas, unspeakable problem, or depression are with different sleep behavior.
Nell and his colleagues took to the Everglades at night, hunting for gators near and far from nests. You have to use a spotlight, and you see the little demon eyes shining out of the marsh. They lassoed the gators, pulled them into the airboat, and took blood samples and body measurements.
Smoke from Australia's Black Summer bushfires of 2019 to 2020, which burnt through 18 million hectares of land, produced a phytoplankton bloom larger than the entire country of Australia, located in the Southern Ocean.
A level of competence in chemistry is essential to the professional practice of material conservation. An understanding of scientific concepts and a basic scientific vocabulary enables the conservator to understand conservation problems, treatments, material techniques in a systematic and quantifiable way, which can be communicated not only to colleagues in the profession, but also those from other disciplines.
Extroverts tend to move quickly and try to influence situations directly, while introverts give themselves time to develop their insights before exposing them to the world. Extroverts are happy making decisions in the thick of events, while introverts want to reflect before taking action.
The advantage of the great European and American orchestras is that they were able to establish their iconic status in an age when their identity could become entrenched. There was less competition, and it was easier to create a brand. Not only did they have the best halls, they attracted the best musicians, who tended to stay put.
Our central aim is to enable you to develop knowledge and attitudes and skills that are conducive to constructive involvement, cooperation, and teamwork with others, and will serve you well in future endeavors. To succeed, the process demands all of us a serious exercise in civic responsibility. Neutron stars, the compressed remains of massive stars gone supernova, are the densest normal objects in the known universe. Black holes are technically denser, but far from normal. Just a single sugar cube worth of neutron star material would weigh 100 million tons here on Earth, or about the same as the entire human population.
Electric vehicles have arrived. With technology led by Tesla and all of the world's major car manufacturers following along behind, electric vehicles are now a common sight on the roads of most developed countries. Yet the situation in less developed countries is rather different. The only African country to have started the change to electric vehicles is South Africa.
The committee would also like to express its gratitude to the independent assessors who joined the committee for consideration of each case. Their expertise and advice play a vital role in our work. A list of independent assessors who attended meetings during this reporting year is included at Appendix D. There is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury that only the rich can afford, but an important foundation for a thriving private sector and economic growth. But the broad pattern of the past 5 years has been that the main reform efforts are taking place in rich countries.
Volunteering is a rewarding experience that allows individuals to contribute their time and skills to worthy causes. It provides an opportunity to make a positive impact on the lives of others and address critical needs within our communities. Volunteers dedicate their energy to a wide range of activities, from supporting environmental initiatives and fostering social change.
The Roman state was tested almost to destruction by the defeat at Cannae by the Carthaginians led by Hannibal, and according to the historian Polybius, it was only what he called the peculiar virtues of the Roman constitution that allowed it to survive this crisis.
Quite obviously, a significant rise in the number of people in a given area or country will affect the demand for a whole host of goods and services. Note that a change in the structure of the population will increase the demand for some goods, but reduce the demand for others.
3 professors from Hamburg University's medical faculty traveled last month to Ingeborg's sitting room in East Berlin to test her on the work she carried out in pre-war Germany. They were impressed, and a special ceremony took place at Hamburg University Medical Center on Tuesday, in which she finally received the PhD that the Nazis stole from her.
Currently, integration is increasingly needed in the business environment. This need emerges from the efficiency and synergy requirements necessary in a complex and turbulent environment. In other words, integration is needed to facilitate coordination, which is again related to the building of competitive advantage.
Tourism is a challenging sector which divides statistics since businesses serve tourists, also serve local people. Therefore, it is not straightforward to estimate how much business sector's revenues and how many jobs are due to tourist expenditures. Schools host parent-teacher conferences 4 times a year, and it is important for families to attend. This is your chance to meet with teachers and ask questions about your child's progress. It can be helpful to write down questions ahead of time.
Tissues are grouped together in the body to form organs. These include the brain, heart, lungs, kidneys, and liver. Each body organ has a specific shape and is made up of different types of tissue that work together. For example, the heart consists mainly of a specialized type of muscle tissue, which contracts rhythmically to provide the heart's pumping action. Globalization has affected what we eat in ways we are only beginning to understand. Modern food production no longer relates to our biological needs, but is in direct conflict with them. The relationship between diet and our fertility, our risk of cancer, heart disease, and mental illness is becoming clearer. Yet much of our food is nutritionally bankrupt.
Faster communications have irrevocably altered the way we communicate and interact with others, ushering in a new era of interconnectedness that has transformed the world into an interconnected global village. The emergence of cutting-edge technologies such as the internet and mobile devices has enabled us to transmit information at unprecedented speeds.
Fence, humanly erected barrier between two divisions of land, used to mark a legal or other boundary, to keep animals or people in or out, and sometimes as an ornament. In newly settled lands, fences are usually made of materials at hand. Example, stone, earth, or wood.
Northcote Parkinson, a British writer, formulated Parkinson's rule. Work expands to fill the time allotted to it, or, conversely, the amount of work completed is in inverse proportion to the number of people employed. Simply said, if you have an hour to do a 5-minute job, it will take an hour to do it.
University of Adelaide researchers have uncovered fundamental new information about the malting characteristics of barley grains. They say their finding could pave the way to more stable brewing processes or new malts for craft brewers. Published in the Nature publication Scientific Reports, the researchers discovered a new link between one of the key enzymes involved in malt production for brewing.
Prolonged exposure to loud noise alters how the brain processes speech, potentially increasing the difficulty in distinguishing speech sounds, according to neuroscientists. Exposure to intensely loud sounds leads to permanent damage of the hair cells, which act as sound receivers in the ear. Once damaged, the hair cells do not grow back, leading to noise-induced hearing loss.
We understand the importance of supporting and restoring biodiversity, and we are teaming up with the world's leading molecular biologists, technologists, conservation biologists, conservation organizations, ethicists, and thought leaders to call for intended consequences to help us safely use all of the available tools that can provide the advantage we need to turn the tide on species loss.
Surgical site infections are caused by bacteria that get in through incisions made during surgery. They threaten the lives of millions of patients each year and contribute to the spread of antibiotic resistance. In low and middle-income countries, 11% of patients who undergo surgery are infected in the process.
The scientists say this is the first documented instance of nectar that attracts a particular animal assistant being produced outside of a nectary. In fact, the observed nectar bleeding might actually be an early system that evolved to include the nectaries found in other plants today.
The sad truth is that happy sounds are infectious. Now comes research that at least partly explains why. It was published this week in the Journal of Neuroscience. A British research team played various sounds including laughter to people who are having their brains scanned by a functional MRI machine. All the sounds activated premotor cortical region of the brain.
Aboriginal people are believed to have arrived as early as 60,000 years ago. and evidence of Aboriginal art in Australia dates back at least 30,000 years. Several states and territories had their origins as penal colonies, with the first British convicts arriving at Sydney Cove in 1788.
A study found that the research funded by the soft drinks industry had different results from research funded by other sources, and went on to suggest that they may have been biased by the research itself. The whole point of the scientific methods is to ensure the research results are not influenced by the source of funding.
As introverts are thinking, they reach back into long-term memory to locate information. An introvert will often compare old and new experiences when making a decision, which slows the processing down, but leads to carefully thought-out decisions. This means that introverts have an active dialogue with themselves and usually walk around with man thoughts in their minds.
The survey found that the statistical chances of someone from a poor background being accepted at one of the country's most respected universities are far lower than those of a student from a wealthy family. This means that the inequalities in society are likely to be passed down from one generation to the next.
The physical location of a restaurant in the competitive landscape of the city has long been known as a major factor in its likely success or failure. Once restaurants are established in such environments, they can do little about their location. All they can do is work to improve customer access to their premises.
Using an X-ray laser, a research team has investigated how water heats up under extreme conditions. In the process, the scientists were able to observe water that remained liquid even at temperatures of more than 170 degrees Celsius. The investigation revealed an anomalous dynamic behavior of water, which is of fundamental importance for the analysis of sensitive samples.
Most of us spend on average 1,800 hours per year in our jobs and will work for about 40 years before retirement. When you consider the amount of time spent in the office, you soon realize how important it is to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day, rather than just meeting financial objectives.
Despite a number of events in recent years devoted to language diversity, language endangerment, and multilingualism, such as the International Year of Languages, public awareness of the issues is still remarkably limited. Only 1 in 4 of the population know that half the languages of the world are so seriously endangered that they are unlikely to survive the present century.
We define paraphrasing as putting passage from an author into your own words. However, what are your own words? How different must your paraphrase be from the original? The answer is it should be considerably different. The whole point of paraphrasing is to show you have read and understood another person's ideas and can summarize them in your own writing.
The classic era of Mayan came to an end around 900 AD. Why this happened is unclear. The cities were probably over-farming the land, so that a period of drought led to famine. Recent geological research supports this, as there appears to have been a 200-year drought around this time. Many individuals have unwittingly contributed to this book through sharing ideas with us as colleagues, students, practitioners, tourists, and residents of destination areas. They are too numerous to thank individually, and indeed, it is not possible to isolate exactly their specific contributions.
We've spent a lot of money over the last 70 years on flood control, and it's protected millions of people and has saved us billions of dollars. We've built dams to hold back the waters, we've built levees to keep the water off the people, and we've raised the ones that were originally started in 1718. A study of nearly 2,000 children found that those who reported playing video games for 3 hours per day or more performed better on cognitive skills tests involving impulse control and working memory compared to children who had never played video games. Most babies start developing their hearing while still in the womb, prompting some hopeful parents to play classical music to their pregnant bellies. Some research even suggests that infants are listening to adult speech as early as 10 weeks before birth, gathering the basic building blocks of their family's native tongue.
There were various explanations for volcano behavior before the structure of the Earth mantle as a semi-solid material was developed. For decades, awareness that compression and radioactive materials may be heat sources was discounted, and volcanic action was often attributed to chemical reactions and a thin layer of molten rock near the surface.
The word radical, from the Latin word for roots, means anyone who advocates fundamental change in the political system. Literally, a radical is one who proposes to attack some political or social problems by going deep into the social or economic fabric to get at the root cause and alter this basic weakness. The whole purpose of making notes is to aid your learning. It is important to go back over them within a day of making them to make sure they make sense and make them legible for future revisions. Also, going back over them should highlight the key questions of areas in which you want to do further reading.
In the late 16th and 17th centuries, many English, French, and Dutch emigrants went to North America in search of gold and silver, but they did not find it. Instead, settlers were forced to support themselves by cultivating crops that they could sell in Europe, like tobacco, indigo, and rice.
We seek to improve learners' experience of education at college and help them to aspire, achieve, and progress. We must embed equality and diversity in everything we do, both as a provider and an employer. We hope to prepare our students for work, higher education, and citizenship by equipping our staff with the skills to meet this agenda.
Your tutor helps you make the most of your time at university by giving you guidance and support along the way. All new students are allocated a personal tutor who will encourage you to get the most out of your course, direct you to other sources of support, and help you achieve your goals.
At a time when stress levels are soaring, rates of depression are increasing, and the gap between rich and poor is ever widening. We believe that giving can play a positive role in helping people to feel connected to those around them and generate a sense of purpose and hope. When we give, we feel valued, useful, and happy.
380 years after his death, William Shakespeare remains the central author of the English-speaking world. He is the most quoted poet and the most regularly produced playwright, and now among the most popular screenwriters as well. Why is that? And who is he? The course considers the ways in which thinkers have responded to the particular political problems of their day and the ways in which they contribute to a broader conversation about human goods and needs, justice, democracy, and the proper relationship of the individual to the state.
An innovative new product or service can give a firm a head start over its rivals, which can be difficult for a new entrant to overcome. If the new technology is also patented, then other firms cannot simply copy its design. It is legally protected.
Agricultural problems due to climate change of normal weather, water depletion, and the collapse of soil have become big problems in all parts of the world. Many are now focusing on ethics and family farming as a way to combat these issues.
The findings of modern research support the view that the evolution of primitive men and its culture should be regarded as unity. Yet this unity is exceedingly complex, and future research will doubtless enable us to make finer distinctions between the periods that people composed it. Along with all that they have in common, infants also show unique individual traits. Some are more active than others, some are more sociable, and some are more interested in the world around them. Infants earlier on show consistent differences in friendliness and anxiety levels which form part of their early character.
Regular exercise releases brain chemicals key for memory, concentration, and mental sharpness at the same time as lifting your mood and lowering stress and anxiety, all of which contribute to brain health. Studies show that regular exercise helps you manage complex tasks, organize and razor-sharp your focus, which is great for those long revision sessions or particularly complex exam questions.
In medicine, the application of information technology means the digitalization of medical records and the establishment of an intelligent network for sharing those records. Other benefits flow from these technological changes. In the past, medicine has taken a paternalistic stance, with the all-knowing physician dispensing wisdom, but that is becoming increasingly untenable.
Written by 10 eminent professors, it has been updated to reflect the shifts in sociological thought over the last 5 years, making it the most comprehensive, authoritative, and contemporary dictionary available. It was essential reading for all students and teachers of sociologies and other related courses, and also for the general reader.
Based on the results from this study, we hypothesized that a high-protein diet coupled with low-carbohydrate intake would be beneficiary for the prevention of bone loss in adults. However, randomized clinical trials or longitudinal studies are needed to further assess our findings.
The noise restrictions are based on measurements on animals in captivity, exposed to noise levels that induce a temporary threshold shift, TTS, in hearing. The TTS onset threshold is the lowest noise exposure capable of inducing a small temporary reduction of hearing sensitivity, also known as auditory fatigue, with full recovery shortly after exposure.
An industry or workplace often has its own terms for certain items, places, or groups of people, and university is no different. Here we have attempted to explain some of the terms you may come across on our websites that are specific to higher education.
Symptoms of depression decrease with improvements in sense of smell, particularly among patients with dysosmia. New research published in the journal Scientific Reports highlights the intricate relationship between depression and sense of smell. The study found that participants' symptoms of depression dropped as their odor identification improved, particularly among those with an impaired sense of smell.
English colonies emerged along the eastern seaboard for a variety of reasons. People, primarily men, originally migrated to Virginia to find gold and silver to make a quick profit. After it became evident that there were no precious metals in the area, men came to Virginia to start cultivating cash crops like tobacco.
Food is one of the most important things you'll ever buy. And yet most people never bother to think about their food and where it comes from. People spend a lot more time worrying about what kind of blue jeans to wear, what kind of video games to play, what kind of computers to buy.
The transition from the brick-and-mortar structure to click-and-order model started with the emergence of information technology and its use in the financial sector. The use of technology in banking has resulted in availability of multiple delivery channels like ATMs, telebanking, internet banking, and mobile banking. The maximum yield of plants, determined by their genetic potential, is seldom achieved because factors such as insufficient water or nutrients, Adverse climate condition, plant diseases, and insect damage will limit growth at some stage. Plants subjected to these biotic and abiotic constraints are said to be stressed.
Moods may also have an effect on how information is processed, by influencing the extent to which judges rely on a pre-existing internal information or focus on new external information.